Hello again, everyone. Well, another midweek reflection. And I always try to think of things that really have been happening, either in my life, the church life, or the nation's life. But something happened this week. Really, it happened on Saturday to myself. And it got me thinking about lots and lots of different things. So I was babysitting for my grandson. Now, my son is a police officer, so I am allowed he's a key worker, and we're allowed to babysit. However, the reason was that they were moving home. And I thought, well, I'll take Finley for a couple of days, and that'll give you time to move, get settled, and then we'll bring him back home. So I had a lovely 2 days with my grandson up here in Forfar. It was just fabulous. He was so well behaved. Lovely, lovely little boy. But he is very independent. I would say that. I don't think I've ever come across a child so independent. But still, lovely. And he even went to bed at 7:30 and didn't get up till 7 in the morning. A wee gem, that's what I'm saying. However, on Saturday, we were heading back down the road. And I thought, what I'll do is we'll nip into Marks and Spencer's to get my son and daughter-in-law just some nice food because they didn't want to be moving a lot of food in their removal. So I thought we'll get in there and we'll get a whole pile of stuff and just take it to them and get them started off. Well, we picked up the trolley at the door. Well, that's when it started, didn't it? Because Finlay decided that he was going to be pushing the trolley, not Granny and not his Auntie Jojo, who was with us as well, my daughter. He was going to be pushing the trolley. So we thought outside that was fine. So we just let him push it and we gently steered it at the other end. However, as you can imagine, the food hall in Marks and Spencer's it wasn't hugely busy, but it was relatively busy. And you can't have a 2-year-old pushing a trolley. However, the minute we tried to touch it, well, he was not a happy chappy. He wanted to do all and all by himself. So things got progressively, I shall say, worse. So eventually, after trying to distract him and everything else I could think of, we got to the checkout. So I said to my daughter, I said to Joanne, you look after Finlay and I'll pack the bags. And just at that, did Finlay not go running off down the full length of the checkouts, with Joanne in hot pursuit, shall we say. And while I was packing the bag, I was watching what was going on because I could just see it. And he just sat down in the middle of the floor and wouldn't move. And then when Joanne tried to pick him up, he made his body really limp. And then he started screaming. Well, that's the first that I have ever seen my 2.5-year-old toddler grandson have a meltdown or a temper tantrum. And it was all because he wasn't getting his own way. Suffice to say, we quickly got out of the shop, into the car, and got him home to his mum and dad. But yeah, that was my first experience of a temper tantrum. But then that got me thinking though, what makes me annoyed? What things in life annoy me? Well, simple things annoy me. So, for example, I like everything to be in its place. I think most of my members in the church will know that. I don't like things lying about or the place cluttered. There's a place for everything. So, I like things to be neat and tidy and in their place. And I probably get a bit irritated and annoyed when things are messy. What else annoys me? Well, I'll say there's lots of things, but there's probably not. Oh, of course, my big annoyance, everybody knows that one, is people sitting with their foot on their brakes. And the car behind, if it's me, you're blasted with bright red lights, especially at night and if it's raining. It's just horrendous to me. Most cars, well, all cars have got handbrakes, but most of them are all very fancy now. All you've got to do is press your brake pedal hard and it automatically goes on your handbrake. So yeah, so that's probably one of my real annoyances. But how bad of annoyance is it? Not really. It's just a mild annoyance. Something else that annoys me is recently I heard well, I was in a discussion with some youths, and one of them commented that the police were pigs. Now that really did annoy me, because I said to them, of course, at that point, I said, so you think my son, I said, who is a good person, I said, you think my son, I said, is a pig? Oh, no, 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 that's not what we're meaning, Barbara Ann. I said, but you just said the police were pigs. I said, my son's a police officer. He does his job very well. I said, so are you calling police pigs because you're doing something wrong? I said, but the police are good, wonderful people doing a wonderful job to keep us all safe and secure. But the people who don't like them tend to be the ones who are doing something wrong. Anyway, we abruptly left that conversation. But it annoys me when people come out with these statements because, yeah, let's be honest, the only time you're in trouble is with the police is if you're doing something wrong. But still not to be called pigs. And then the other thing that probably slightly annoys me is when people don't look at both sides of a situation. You know, they just see their side of a situation and they'll maybe fly off the handle in annoyance and maybe anger because it's not being done their way or how they think it should be done. And they don't consider why another person or why a situation on the other side is different. Because rules are usually there for a reason. And yeah, so I always try to look at why things are the way they are. So that then brings me into the next phase of annoyance. It then becomes like a mild disagreement, doesn't it? And probably one of the mild disagreements that I've been involved in, and it is a mild disagreement, is the debate over independence and the debate when we were discussing it over Brexit. So that was a mild irritant and a mild disagreement that I would have with them when I was saying one thing and somebody else was saying another. But we're all allowed our opinions. That's our society, and we vote on it. So you have to go with the majority. But sometimes that isn't enough for people, and people then get really angry. So that's the next stage, getting angry. I must admit, I'm not an angry person. I tend not to get angry at very much. But flaunting rules, that probably gives me a bit of anger. People who deliberately flaunt rules. I know we can accidentally break rules, but people who deliberately flaunt them. Thieves, people who steal. Injustice, racism, gender issues. They're probably the ones I'd probably get more angry about, but I feel I can't do very much about. But we could always do it a little bit, I know that. So raising awareness of it is certainly something. And then, of course, there is a full-blown rage. Absolutely a rage. And, of course, there's a great saying in Forfar, isn't it? You know, oh, I got a raging from someone. I just loved that saying when I came to Forfar. But going into a real rage where you cannot control your temper. You cannot control your emotions. So that brings me back to wee Finlay, doesn't it? He is a toddler. They're always testing the boundaries. He couldn't control his temper. So therefore, that's what resulted in the meltdown or the temper tantrum in Marks and Spencer's and all the way back to the car. So it was his way or no way. How many people do we know where it's their way or no way? As I said, Finlay got annoyed because of his age and he couldn't control his emotions. And then, I said, it escalated into annoyance. And then it became a disagreement between him and myself and my daughter. And then, of course, he became really, really angry and he went into this rage. Anyway, Granny eventually, as I said, came to the rescue and we got it all calmed down. However, as adults, we struggle to contain our annoyance sometimes, our anger, and that can have devastating consequences. Arguments between family and friends, they fall out, and then sometimes they never make up. They don't speak to each other ever again. And sometimes violence comes to the forefront if that emotion cannot be controlled. We see it in the television. We see it when we read the newspapers or in social media. People being set upon, people being killed, and then people out for revenge for something that was done to them or their family. And I I always try not to react when I'm annoyed, because you're not in your right frame of mind when you're annoyed. And sometimes you can say and do things that then become, well, they escalate the situation as well. So I think patience is a real virtue. And we've all heard that saying before. So why do you get angry? Do you know what your triggers are that make you angry? And if you got angry and it affected someone else or a situation, how did you feel about that? Were you sorry? Were you hurt? Couldn't care less? Thought, oh, I really shouldn't have done that? Have you discussed what you've done with someone else about these situations to try and get them resolved? Have you hurt someone else and made them angry, as opposed to someone making you angry, looking at it from the other side? Did you feel you're in the right? Because let's be honest, that's something we all feel we are. And how did you feel when you witnessed their anger, or when you heard their viewpoint or side of the story on it? Well, again, back to wee Finlay. Wee Finlay was made to say sorry to his granny and his Auntie Jojo by his parents, and if he hadn't said sorry, then he would have been sent to the naughty step or kept on it longer if he hadn't said it. But you cannot make an adult say sorry. You can't make an adult forgive someone for something they've done, for any wrongdoing. But it's something we strive as people of faith to achieve in our lives. We need to offer forgiveness, and we need to accept forgiveness, because we want peace and unity. And that's a big part of our faith journey and our faith story. So it's hard to say sorry, and people find it even harder to forgive. As I said, especially if you've been hurt. But that is what people of faith are called to do. And I must admit, I'm a person that holds no grudges. And what's in the past is in the past. But you just never know in life when something may happen that will really, really test you in these situations. In the church over the centuries, many people have walked away from the church because of disagreements, and they feel their viewpoint or their argument was not listened to or heard to, or maybe the minister didn't come and visit them when they were ill. In East and Old Parish Church, a few people have walked away from our church because of the renovations. Why was that? Some people walked away because the old organ was taken out. Why was that? I understand that sometimes the heart can overrule the head, but when something is no longer fit for purpose and costs even more money to keep and run, then that is not being good stewards. I would say some people are just looking at it from their point of view. I even heard someone in Forfar really, really criticising East and Old Parish Church for the renovations, because, we've changed so much, and all the pews were taken out, the organ was taken out, and really, really criticising us. So when we asked them, well, when you were in the church, what was it about it that you didn't like? And their answer was, well, I've never been in the church since you've reopened for the renovations. So they've never been in the church, but they're out there criticising. And they also, don't contribute to the church. Whereas it's the members of East and Old and friends of East and Old who contribute their hard-earned money to keep the running of our church up and going and doing God's missional work. So, also in East and Old, some people disagreed with the missional work that was being undertaken, while others walked away because they were asked to contribute a little bit more money, only if they felt that they could. So how else does a church survive and do the work of God if we don't get donations coming in? But again, everyone's allowed their viewpoint, but they're not looking at things on both sides of that story. And they get angry, or they get annoyed, or they get upset. And instead of talking about it to the people involved, they walk away. Being a person of faith and living the way Christ expects us to do is far from easy. And that's why we lay our burdens on him. We talk it through with Jesus. We talk it through in our prayers, and we listen to his voice as he guides us and steers us and supports us and gives us hope for the future. Because I firmly believe God's hand is upon East and Old Parish Church as we head towards what we are hoping will be called the post-pandemic period. So don't let your annoyance and anger get out of hand. Don't walk away from everything. Come and visit us. Come and talk to us. We just need to be together in unity and in peace. God bless everyone.